Yeah.
So the goal was kind of to have people pop in and ask questions if they're interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost started to do it like an Instagram live video, but my recording equipment doesn't play very well with Instagram, so that's why I had to do it this way.
Okay.
Uh, might as well do introductions. This is Aiham. He's someone I met through Instagram, Win City Outdoors, and it's kind of funny. So it's the whole thing, you like somebody's page, like their pictures, that person likes your page back, you start chit chatting, all that good stuff. But what
Yeah.
was really interesting was, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Whenever the whole Bass Finder box thing was going on, I thought, what in the hell is this guy doing? Because it was this big back and forth of, are you sure this is legit? Or is this, have you looked into this thing? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. What is the big deal? Well, you were just making sure that, there was other people out there that were legit doing this thing. And I don't blame you. But it was just kind
Yeah,
of funny. I was like,
because imagine we promoted this brand that ended up being a scam, and it takes all our friends' money.
yeah,
And now, like, you go to bed feeling like crap because it's like, I just lost my buddy. What are the boxes, like $30? Some of them go up to $80.
yeah.
Well, that's a lot of money these days, man. Times are tough, and that's the last thing I want to do to my buddies is rip them off. Like that's the worst case scenario in my opinion. Honestly, what had me skeptical about that page is the amount of followers. They have a tremendous amount of followers. And then I asked them, I was like, how long have you had this Instagram? And then they said a year. So I was like, wait a minute.
It was incredible.
This is odd, and Instagram, how every picture you post on there's a person commenting, promote to Fish World, or promote you can't post a picture on Instagram without some type of promotion in the comments. It's hilarious nowadays. It never used to be like that, eh? It was never like I've had Instagram for a while. It was never like that. Now all of a sudden,
So for me, I've only been on Instagram for about a year myself.
Yeah.
Whenever I first started, I was Facebook heavy. I was like, oh man, Facebook is the way to go.
Yeah,
Me
too.
I didn't realize that that's kind of a thing of the past for stuff like what we're doing.
Yes.
So I popped on the Instagram. I started upping my game a little bit. And even once I was posting daily, and I thought my content was okay. And I just could not crack into the algorithm. I couldn't figure it out. And it's been really tough. And, I'm glad you brought up Instagram. I almost feel a little bit of social media burn. Like I'm worn out with trying to promote on all these various social media pages. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's exhausting.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It takes the effort for sure. The people think you're just posting. No, it takes time out of your day.
A lot of time, and to be successful at it. And I really don't even know that. Yeah, of course, I think we all have this grand, plan in our heads that, hey, we're going to become Instagram famous. People are going to like our photos and our posts, and man, we're going to be repping all kinds of places. It doesn't work that way.
No.
And it's almost like this false hope that I think some of the outdoors people are starting to get a little bit tired of. So instead of trying to, garner sponsorship and stuff, I think we're almost building these little communities that we feel safe talking to each other with.
Yep, I agree.
So no, that's my social media rant. I'm done ranting on social media, but it's always interesting just hearing how someone else feels about that kind of thing. Aiham, I have no idea where you're from. I've got an idea. I think, are you from like the northeast, or not northeast, but the mid north area of the country?
You're talking currently?
Yeah.
Where I was born?
No, currently, yeah.
I live in North America. Like I live in Windsor, Ontario. So that's the most southern city in Canada, pretty much. We're literally on the border of the States and Canada. You know what I mean? We've got the Detroit River, which is where I fish usually, and it separates Canada and the United States. So yeah, I'm the most southern part of Canada, and I don't know. Would you call it? What would you call it? Southern Canada, North America,
Southern
whatever you want.
Southern Canada is still fine.
Yeah,
For
I
some
don't think
reason,
anybody's ever used that actually. Southern. I've heard North America, but never Southern Canada.
I was thinking Minnesota. I don't know why.
You thought it was from Minnesota?
Yeah,
What made you think that?
hell if I know. just, just a guess. Uh, so you said currently, did you grow up in Canada?
No, I was actually born in Syria.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind, would you talk about how you ended up in Canada?
um,
If
you
it's not too
see,
big of a deal.
my parents moved to the United States when I was like literally 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what Syria was even like, to be honest. Like, I have these little memories of my childhood. Like, you know, those little random memories you have of your childhood when you were a kid? It's
Sure.
weird, but we never seem to forget like certain memories.
Yeah.
So I remember that of Syria, but like I said, I was 1 year old. We went to the United States. We lived there for a few years. Then we eventually moved to Canada.
Hmm. Okay. Once you moved to the States and then you ended up in Canada, was you and your family involved in the outdoors?
You know, it's funny you say that. There's nobody in my family that participates in the outdoors. No, I'm
Really?
serious. There's no one in my family that fishes, no one in my family that hunts. And it's super strange because it's like I like those type of things more than, a lot of people I know.
So if your parents didn't get you involved in the outdoors, how did you end up, loving fishing and being outside?
Well, you see, one time my mom likes her walks at the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have the Detroit River, like I said, so she'll take us down, go for a walk. I was like super young, like this is 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we are walking at the river, and I see this gentleman casting a rod. Right,
Yeah.
there's fishermen everywhere, So this curious young kid, walk up to him. I'm just staring at him, being a weird little kid. And then this guy notices I'm staring at him, and then he goes, "Take this." So he hands me the rod. And Zach, as soon as I grabbed this rod, that was it. That was like, I don't know, something clicked in my head, something connected, and it was like, this is amazing. So he showed me how to cast, and then that was pretty much it. And it's funny because I think he was just doing that to try to like flirt with my mom. I'm serious. Because like once I was using his fishing rod, he starts talking to my mom, and then he's telling her she's cute. But either way, I got an addiction out of it, like a passion out of it. So whatever, man. Because my mom is actually a single mom, so he just started conversating with her, and I ended up gaining a passion for fishing right there. I didn't even catch nothing, and it was just love at first sight, really.
That is amazing. So I like to talk about all the time how it's up to us outdoors people to make sure that there are future generations that are involved. Uh,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's really strange that just a complete stranger, even if he had ulterior motives, would think to just hand a young kid a fishing rod and say, "Here, let me teach you some things."
And here we are now, and I'm still fishing, and I think that's absolutely amazing. It's just some things happen for a reason.
Apparently,
Yeah.
have you paid it forward, so to speak? Have you found just some youngster that you've said, "Here, let me teach you some things"?
I have given like some fishing gear to some younger anglers, and I'm always like open to helping out younger guys. Like younger guys will DM me asking questions almost every day, and I'm willing to answer them because I remember being their age as well and asking the older guys tips and what I should be using to fish and all that stuff. So I'm not the one to ignore, a younger angler messaging me, because some people don't like that, they find that annoying. But me personally, I know how it feels to be that young kid with all these questions. You have a million questions in your head when you start fishing because there's just so many variables and there's so many options, and it's just it can scramble the brain a bit.
Oh, for
You know what
sure.
I mean?
Especially, you said this was what, 11 years ago?
When I first started,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, a little, maybe 12. I'm
Even
25, so I was super young, like really young
let's
when,
be conservative and say it was even 10 years ago.
yeah,
You were talking about being a young kid and having all these questions. That was before really the days of kind of what I would consider the modern internet. Um, how
yes.
did you get information? What did you do?
We didn't have all this luxury of social media and like all these like the fishing community is huge on social media, as you know, nowadays.
Hmm.
But it wasn't always like that. And I find myself talking like an old man, but it wasn't always like that. Back in my day, how I got my information and how I studied and researched fishing was I actually went to the library and I got a library card, and my cat's just jumping on my table right now. I got a library card and I started, getting books about fishing. And I would literally sit there at home and just nonstop read these books back and forth, up and down. I mean, like I've read these books to the point where I can probably like memorize them. And it was like it was oh, there he is right now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a hassle for me. I actually enjoyed learning about fishing. It was the first time I actually liked learning. But I swear, man. And I take home like 7 books, and then after reading all those books, I'd even take them to school. And like how at school they give you like reading periods or reading times. We used to get
Yeah.
little reading, 40 minutes of reading. You just get a book, and or they would provide books, and I would always bring my fishing books from the library. And yeah, and then I'd also watch the fishing shows on the TV.
Hmm.
I grew up on like Al Linder and James Linder and Bob Izumi and
Bill Dance.
Bill Dance. Yes, yes,
He's the OG.
absolutely.
Let's just be honest.
Yes, him fishing for bass and like all those blooper videos. He's huge about blooper videos. Those kill me, man.
Yeah.
Those destroy me. Those are so funny. And yeah, that's how I got my knowledge. And like, I wish school was that, interesting to learn about, but
For sure. Well,
yeah,
let's see, I'm 35, so I'm 10 years older than you.
yeah,
All of my knowledge, again, like you said, self-taught, but I didn't go out and do the library thing. I didn't ingest books. I was very fortunate. I was surrounded by people that love to fish. So
that's
all these
awesome.
old, yeah, all these
That's
old,
awesome. You got to appreciate that.
oh yeah, all these old timers would just take me out fishing with them.
That's
And
awesome. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
being a young kid, I didn't have money to buy stuff, so they just open their tackle boxes and say, "Here, put this on your rod and do what we're doing."
And you know
Um,
what? That's not to say I didn't have people take me out.
mhm.
Although it wasn't my family members, but I did get taken out by some older, respectable gentlemen. Like I would have to ask my mom, and she would call them and make sure everything's all right.
Yeah,
And like you said, yeah, they would open up the tackle box and say, grab whatever you need, and they'd even sometimes give me rods and tackle, and like like the it was just something I'm super grateful about because these people aren't even related to me. So it's like,
yeah.
you know,
It's interesting because I feel like those old timers reach a point where it's more fun to see other people be
catch
successful
them
and
than
catch
them.
fish.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's a very happy place to be in because you've accomplished so much as an angler that you can
Yes.
sit back and appreciate other people doing it.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and it's the same thing. I grew up in the era of like the small town tackle shops. Did you have any of those around the Detroit River?
We had this one tackle shop called Bob's Bait and Tackle. This place smelled so bad, Zach. They had a whole bunch of cats running around. If you're from Windsor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They had hundreds of cats in this little tiny shop, and it just smelled horrendous. Like it would just smack you in the face as soon as you walk in. You get your little worms and you get out of there. You get the hell out of there. Oh, it's not so bad. But we do have a few bait shops. Yep.
Were they super helpful to you in the beginning? Or did
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was younger, I didn't know a lot about the area, and I would ask, like, there's a shop called Strictly Fishing, and it's actually owned by my buddy Nathan's dad, Charles. And I'd go in there as a little kid, and I'd be like, Charles, where's the fish? Where are they biting? Who, like, because obviously he sees tons of anglers every day,
yeah.
so he's getting a scoop, and I knew that, so I was like, let me pick his brain while I'm buying this dozen minnows and dozen worms, and he would give me like really good details about where the fish are biting and what the people have been telling him. And I do appreciate him for that, because sure enough, I went out that day and I went to the spots he told me about, caught fish. So
That's something I feel like has changed a little bit. Like it's not as easy to get those
people
spots.
are a lot more hush hush nowadays. It's huge right now. Like, in fact, me doing YouTube, I get a lot of death threats from people claiming I am burning spots, because in my area, we only have so many musky spots.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when someone watches my video, it's very, obvious to tell where I'm at, because there's not that many spots. And the thing is, these spots are no secret. You know what I mean, Zach? These spots are no secret at all. And someone can go out and fish that spot because he's seen me there in my video, and he can not catch squat. He might not catch nothing. So it's like, just because I'm showing the spot doesn't mean people are going to go there and catch a fish guaranteed. You know what I mean? It's not like that. And yes, I do receive death threats, like, why are you blowing up our spots? Blah, blah, blah. These people think they own these spots, and it's just, it happens to a lot of YouTubers. It's huge in the YouTubing community, like the fishing YouTubers. They get it a lot. And that's why I never put the name of the spot of where I'm at in the title. I never, like, you'll see me put Lake St. Clair, or you'll see me put Detroit River, and like, it's just blows my mind how people can get so triggered about that. Meanwhile, these spots are not a secret at all, like, at all.
The thing that even bothers me more about that, so yes, let's say that they know exactly where you're fishing. You put in the time to go out and research the area.
Yeah.
You know when to fish it, what to fish it with, and how to fish it. Me coming up to the Detroit River in that exact same spot would probably do no good, because I wouldn't know anything about that body of water.
Yes.
And if you're local and you know about the body of water, like you said, it's no secret.
And what's really frustrating is these same people that are telling me this are the same people taking pictures of their fish in that spot and posting it on the social medias. So what's the difference between my video and your photo? You know what? I think the photos are worse than the video, because for a video, you have to go through clicking the link, and then you're going to have to watch a little ad, and then you get to see my video, and then you got to listen to my little introduction, and then you might see the spot. Well, you are going to see the spot. For someone to post a picture of a fish, say they're holding a muskie, and they see the background of your spot, they don't have to go through clicking a link and watching a little an ad and then watching an intro. They can see the spot right there, and they literally, in a split second scene, they are catching fish in this spot. So you are a hypocrite for coming at me saying I'm burning spots when you're doing the exact same thing, maybe worse. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's just like, how are you going to post a picture and then give me shit for making a video?
Rules for thee and not for me. That's the motto, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
We're gonna come back to muskie and focus on a little bit more. I got a little bit more background information though.
absolutely.
When you started fishing, were you multi-species or did you want to focus on one type of fish?
I wanted to catch whatever hit, whatever hit, man. Um, there's a few species that I would watch on TV, like the fishing shows, and I'd read in the books. They
Uh-huh.
were bass and they were walleye,
Yeah.
and um, those were the hardest fish for me to catch at the time. I was super young. You know what I
Mhm.
would catch, Zach?
Uh,
Gobies.
oh, really?
Gobies. I'd go out and catch a bucket full of gobies. Um, Catching like a small rock bass was like
Uh-huh.
a bonus fish to me. That was like, to me at the time, it was like a muskie.
That's
A little
funny.
rock bass was awesome to me. Little
Uh-huh.
perch as well. And then I started to learn a little bit more, and I started catching, the bass, the walleyes, and seeing them in person. It's weird to say, I know, but I was starstruck.
Oh,
Reason
really?
being, yeah, because it's like I seen these fish on the TV shows and on in the books, but I've never actually seen them in person.
Uh-huh.
Seeing them in person was like really special to me.
That's neat. And see, when I think of Canada, for some reason, I think of just smallmouth and walleye, like they're everywhere, and you should be able to catch them on every cast. Is that not the case?
That is absolutely not the case. That is definitely not the case. I wish it was. I wish it was, man. But no, it's a lot more. It's a lot more harder than that. There's there's a lot of different things to think about, before you go out, because it could be the weather, it could be the
Hmm.
wind direction, it could be the barometric pressure, it could be water clarity. There's so much variables that become obstacles, and they get in your way, and you have to learn how to, you know, dictate them and know what to do about it. Like, for example, the water's dirty. Obviously, you got to use bright colors and all that. So yeah, it's not really a walk in the park. There's a lot to think about.
Hmm. Okay, that being said, it can't be any harder than catching muskie. So when did you go from like I obviously you probably catch other species and like catching them, but when did your big interest in muskies like when did it happen?
You see, my one of the guys I was talking about earlier that used to take me out fishing,
Uh-huh.
he would pick me up every Sunday. We would drive out to the muskie spot, and it was a good drive. It was about 45 minutes to an hour, and we would show up, and there'd be tons of guys out there. I mean, tons of guys. It'd be shoulder to shoulder, and it's like, this is before YouTube. This is like 11 years ago. This is before any of that, and those spots were still jumping. Like, what I mean is, like, it was shoulder to shoulder.
Jeez.
So that's to go back to our other topic, how apparently YouTubers blow up spots. This is before even like social media. So it's like these spots were loaded way before any of this. So you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But anyways, back to the topic. So it'd be shoulder to shoulder, but there would be a lot of muskies caught, like a lot. Like some days it looked like wicked tuna because they were just getting flung, man. They were getting
Jeez.
caught so by the 15s, the 20s, there'd be like 30 fish caught in one day, and I just witnessed it all. And I was casting too, but I never really got lucky. So it took 4 years for me to finally catch my first one.
4 years?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, man. It was brutal. Like, I would go and they'd be getting caught to the left of me, to the right of me, but I wouldn't be able to get one. And then 4 years later, I finally got one. And, I'm actually kind of grateful for that. Reason being, I think that's why I love them so much, because they made me
Mhm.
work so hard. So it just made me want them more. You know what I'm saying? It's
I
like
got
a
you.
psychology effect. But yeah, four tough years of casting and not getting shit, losing lures, and it was just brutal. But like the fact that people kept catching them right beside me made me, like like I can't give up. Like I gotta get one.
Yeah.
It just made me want it and love it more. So I'm not
In
too
those
pissed about it.
in those early days, what were you using to try to catch one?
In the early days, we were using you fish, right, Zach? Obviously.
Oh yeah, sure.
How often do you fish? Would you say you're an avid fisherman,
Yeah, I mean,
weekend guy?
I'm not like a novice. I've been fishing pretty consistently now for damn near 30 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, do you know the Believers?
I don't know the believers. I've never heard
So
that.
the Believer is like an old school fishing lure. They still use them, but
Uh-huh.
back in the day, we didn't have so many options of baits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The main baits were, and if you musky fish, you know what I'm talking about. Bulldogs, Believers, and Jakes. We had three options to choose from
Okay.
compared to today's like 100 option.
Uh,
So those were the three baits that we used back then, and it's not even like it was a long time ago. This is only 10, 11 years ago, and it's just a lot more different than it is now. There's a lot more choices nowadays, and a lot more options, and more things to waste your money on.
were those early baits, are they all hard baits or were some of them like a spinner type bait?
There were some plastic baits and there was hard baits, yeah, but a lot of them were hard. A lot of them were just made out of wood.
Okay. I've used let's see. God, I can't a wood chopper is something that I used to use all the time with a top water bait about, I don't know, that long, looks like a cigar, but it's got propellers on either end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's really, as far as like toothy fish, pike and muskie, that's all we ever really threw was just top water baits. We went to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We always caught pike, but never muskie.
Now, have you caught a muskie before?
No, nope.
You've
It's a
never
fish.
caught one?
No, and here in Colorado, within 2 hours, I've got some really good tiger muskie populations.
Oh, nice.
I just haven't had a chance to go out and catch them.
You should definitely do that up.
I got so tied up in big game hunting last year and ice fishing that I just forgot all about it.
Oh, you hunt?
Oh yeah.
Nice. What do you hunt for?
Well, I grew up in Southern Ohio, and the only thing me and my grandpa hunted were squirrel. Uh, you know, again, for 30 years, me and my grandpa would go out to the river bottoms and hunt fox squirrel and gray squirrels. And then my interest in deer didn't really get picked up until I got here. So
Yeah.
I've been archery hunting for mule deer. I put in for my elk tags and my pronghorn tags.
Mhm.
This year, the only thing I drew was a mule deer tag, and probably here in the next couple weeks, I'll start hitting the woods and get it filled.
Sorry to turn the podcast on you now.
Hey,
It's
that's
like,
fine.
now I'm asking the questions.
Hey, do it. I'm all for it.
Okay. So did you eat the squirrels?
Oh yeah, loved them. I still
No
love
way.
squirrel. Oh, they're great.
How would you describe them?
Well, have you ever seen the show Meat Eater?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I love that.
So Steve Ranella calls them a thinking man's chicken. It's just it's really has like the taste and consistency of like dark meat chicken. It really does.
Okay.
It's not gamey. It's very lean, unless you find squirrels that have been eating. Like in our case, in Southern Ohio, they would hang out in the river bottoms by cornfields. So they'd go out and get all this field corn and they'd eat, and they would have just like this layer of this yellow fat that just covered them. They were incredibly fat.
Give me a second, Zach. My fault. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Super sorry to interrupt you there, brother.
You're fine. Yeah. So growing up, my grandpa was super old school. His favorite part of the squirrel was the head. So he'd crack the head and take the brains out of it. Then he would leave the good stuff for me. So I
Did
got
you
to eat
ever
the
try the head?
nope, couldn't make myself do it.
How do you eat the heads?
What is it?
Like, did he tell you what they tasted like?
Tastes like squirrel brains. That's what he'd tell me. I just couldn't make myself do it.
That
And
was
also, he would
serious.
eat the heart, liver, and the kidneys. So I had
Raw
to
or cooked?
cooked for sure, cooked. Yeah. So whenever I would skin a squirrel, I had to get really good at skinning it, like getting all the fur around its eyebrows, its ears, its nose. I had to skin all that off of the head so that he could have the head to eat it. And then whenever I would gut it, it was like an anatomy class. So you'd pull out certain intestines, you pull those out, and you pull the
Yeah.
lungs out, and then you'd have to flip the liver over and find the gall and cut it out. I mean, I got really good at taking apart a squirrel.
You didn't get grossed out?
What is it?
Did you get grossed out?
Oh no. I grew up doing that stuff. So
That's awesome.
I grew up like a farm boy. We farmed every year. We had acres of corn and green beans and potatoes that we raised.
That's awesome, man.
We butchered hogs. So we would make our own cooking grease. So we'd go to the butcher and buy 100 pounds of just raw pig fat. We would cut it up, and then about this time of the year, we would get this huge cast iron kettle, and we'd boil all this pig fat. And then once it liquefied and cooked all the water out of it, we would scoop. Yeah, we scooped it out, and that's what they cooked with. We never bought Crisco, vegetable oil, olive oil. My grandpa died. He was 94 years old, and he only ate what we call lard his whole life. That's all he ever ate.
Wow, and he never had any problems health wise?
No.
95 is beautiful. He lived a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we grew up. I had this really weird upbringing. It was this weird combination of new school and old school, because I knew how to butcher animals. I knew how to skin squirrels. I could work telephones. I was this weird combination, and they ate everything. My grandpa grew up during the Depression, and like a pig, the only thing he wouldn't eat was the oink. So ears, tails, feet, everything.
What's the
eaten.
oink?
The sound a pig makes.
Oh,
you can't eat that.
Nose to tail, eh?
Yep, nose to tail. So he would even take a hog's head. There was one time at our local grocery store that they had hog's heads on sale. And he called me and said, "Hey, go get one of those and bring it to me." And I was like, "All right, that's fine." So I go to the grocery store, and there's this father and son standing there staring at this thing. And I walk up beside him. I go, you ever seen them sell hog's heads? And they were like, "No, we were just talking about that." And I said, "You don't know what they do with them?" And the guy's like, "Well, yeah, I'd love to know what you could do with that." And my grandpa made something called head cheese. So he would take this hog's head and boil the whole thing. And then whenever it was cooked, he would cut every little bit of meat off of the head and the brain, and he would grind it all up, season it, and make it like a loaf. And it was called head cheese. So he could slice it, put it on bread, eat whatever. So I explained this whole process, and I'm like, "Oh man, that is so wild. Who does that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm fixing to right now." Grab the hog's head and I walk out. Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, I had a very, very interesting upbringing, and it's it shaped me for the rest of my life. I love the outdoors. I've always loved hunting and fishing, so it's just something that it's a part of me now.
It's a blessing.
It really is. I don't know what I would have done because I'm the same as you. My mom and dad weren't outdoorsy. They didn't camp or hike or mountain bike. We were, lower middle class. We all worked all the time. I got a full-time job in high school. My junior year, I was managing a restaurant, so didn't have time to do a whole lot of stuff. But we lived in a place where I could walk out my back door and be in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and it was nice.
That's beautiful.
No. All right, back to your silly toothy fish. Now that we've dissected my past, right? So these early trips, getting you geared up, teaching you some things. after you catch your first one, did you really start moving in the direction of becoming a serious muskie angler?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get hooked as soon as you catch the first one. I was hooked way before that, but getting one definitely bona fides the addiction. It's like it's hard to explain. Like it makes us go out in these cold, like snowy days, and cast these big heavy baits and for hours.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying that proves, like this is a real life addiction.
Sure. Muskie is one of those odd fish. I feel like they've got a very mysterious aura about them. They're called the fish of 10,000 casts. Um, and I feel like true musky anglers really honor those fish to an extent that bass anglers don't really think about bass that way.
I agree. Muskies just aren't as abundant as bass are. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Muskies, there's just something just beautiful about them. I don't know what it is. Just their sheer power and their stunning looks and their sheer size. It's just you have to love them. And you're right. A lot of us really do take the health of these fish seriously because we're passionate about them.
I'm not sure. I don't know if you've read the article. I posted it on Instagram. There was a guy, I think it was in Minnesota. He supposedly was a very hardcore, dedicated angler. He was in his canoe and he caught a 50-plus-inch muskie. And he
That's
got
huge.
it. Oh, it's a big muskie.
That's
And he
huge.
got it to the canoe and realized that he couldn't take a picture of it and keep it he couldn't get it in the boat, in the canoe, and he
Yeah.
couldn't take a picture of it in the water the way it was. So he paddled this muskie all the way back to the bank just to get a picture with it. And by the time it got there, it had died.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not breathing correctly when it's getting dragged like that. It's not taking water through the gills properly. Yeah, for sure that fish died. Yeah.
And that really, me and my other co-host that's usually on with me, we had a great discussion about that, about how this kind of comes back to our social media thing. The pressure of taking a fish like that and needing a picture to kind of validate it on Instagram or Facebook.
That's selfish.
Super.
That's selfish.
Well, and it was kind of a slap in the face because the article made this guy out to be this really great angler. And me and my co-host were both like, yeah, he might have caught the fish. That doesn't mean he's a good angler.
Yeah.
It's just a shame. Especially for a 50
a good
plus inch muskie.
angler. A good angler would have never done that.
No, I mean, if it was me and I was in a canoe by myself, I would have got a picture of the fish in the water.
Yes.
And just let it go.
That's it.
Because muskie anglers don't typically keep muskie to eat, do they?
No, not at all.
So they're purely a sport fish.
Pure sport. Absolutely, yep.
That's just interesting. You're talking about taking care of them, and there's just one instance that I've found. That's the only time I've ever seen someone that maliciously handled a muskie. How long does it take a muskie to get that big? Because I mean, a 50-inch fish is nothing to laugh at.
I don't know the exact amount, but it's a long time.
It's got to be years, right?
It's definitely years. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know, but it's not soon.
It's indicative because when you're a muskie angler, like I've always heard, like the 50-inch muskie is like that's the dream of catching one of those.
Yes. 50-inch class muskie is definitely something to brag about in the muskie world. It's they have a club called the 50-inch club where if you catch a 50-inch muskie, you're in the club. And a lot of anglers go their whole life without getting a 50. It's no easy task. And that's part of the reason why it's such an honor to have in your on your name, to be able to have caught in one of these 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely huge. They're huge. It's like, I don't know what to compare it to. It's like a freaking home run. It's like a bases loaded,
It had to
like
be like a Boone and Crockett whitetail or some monster elk.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a freaking 14-point fucking deer. Excuse my language. I don't know if we
No,
can swear on here or not.
no, I get it. And like you were saying earlier, musky anglers put themselves through such crazy extremes to catch them. Earlier, you were holding up a lure just to give people an example. Hold that thing back up just to kind of show us some of the lures you're using.
This is a tiny one. But this lure here, my buddy Eric Chan makes, and he is gifted. Let me tell you. Tell me that doesn't look like a bluegill.
It looks like a bluegill. That's
Looks
definitely
exactly like a bluegill. That paint job is impeccable. Those eyes, you can see how they shine in the light.
Yep.
This is a bait that has had time put into it, and you can see the love too. The beautiful coating, it's just so glossy, and the details. These baits, there's a reason they run you $60 to $80 a piece, and that's no joke.
Okay.
That is a lot for one bait.
Oh, for sure.
The thing is, it's worth every penny because you've seen how beautiful that paint job was. That probably took him a very long time, 4+ hours to make just that bait, and he's got to make a lot of them. Not sure if he still makes them, but he's talented. I'll tell you that much.
And when it comes to tactics for a muskie, let's say this time of year right now, since it's mid-October, when you're going out for a muskie trip, what's your typical kit look like? What rods are you taking? What pound test is on your rod and reel? And what are some of the lures you're typically going to focus on?
My rod is a St. Croix Muskie Mojo. You obviously know St. Croix, right?
Oh, sure.
Beautiful rods. The Muskie Mojo paired with Shimano Calcutta 400B. And my line is 100-pound braid.
Woo! You're not playing around.
No, there's a reason they say these are moose pullers, because you can literally haul a moose with these rods. And that's not in water. But 100-pound line is strong line, and we need this type of line not just for the fish, because we're throwing heavy baits. And if you try to throw one of these baits with, like, say for instance, 50-pound line, what's going to happen is you're going to lose $40 because that lure is going to snap and it's going to go flying. I've seen it time and time again. These guys, they try to use this light braid, and 50 pounds not light braid. But when it comes to muskie fishing, it is. Okay, I've seen guys huck their baits and they snap off, and that's expensive, dude. That's $40. These lures are $40, $50 a lure nowadays. Prices have gone up, and it's ridiculous. And my baits, my arsenal is just big rubber baits, big swim baits. That's all I use. Big swim baits. It's just, I love them because when the muskie bites into a swim bait that's made out of plastic, it feels realistic. It feels like a real fish, giving me more time to set the hook because they hold on to it longer.
Yeah.
Now, this is everything, because, sometimes you get hit by a muskie. What they'll do is they'll actually put slack in your line. They hit it towards you. They hit it so hard and so viciously, and they're running towards you. So what that does is it makes the big slack line. And it pretty much feels like your bait disappeared. And now you got to crank all this line in as fast as you can, and then you got to try to set the hook. In that time, say you're using a hard bait, that muskie could let go of the bait and go on about its day. Now, if it was a plastic bait, that fish will hold on to it, and it'll give me time to crank up all that slack line and then get a good hook set. You really need a good hook set on these fish because it's bone. You're setting into bone. It's not flesh like a bass or a walleye. It's bone. It's thick, hard bone. So you really got to jack them. You got to reef it.
I've been crappie fishing for the last 5-6 plus years. My
I
hook
love
sets
crappie.
my hook sets have become so pathetic. Like whenever I switch over to go bass fishing,
Yeah, because their mouths are so thin.
yeah, it's just a little dunk and
It's a
you got
paper.
them.
Yeah.
So whenever I go bass fishing now, I give these little pathetic crappie hook sets, and I've probably lost one
No,
bass.
you can't do that.
I
You
can't
cannot
help
do
it. It's
that.
what I do.
I know. When you crappie fish so much, you tend to lose that hook set. But with bass is the reason why my musky hook set is so good because we just absolutely reef it on them.
Have you seen a bass flying up out of the water?
I have, bro. This one time I set a hook into a bass so hard, and this bass was not even a half a pound. I was running my GoPro on my chest, and this bass hit the topwater frog right at my feet. I set the hook so hard the bass came flying at the GoPro on my chest and smacked the GoPro. It was the best footage I've ever had because you just see a bass coming flying like 100 miles an hour right at the camera, and I slowed it down and it just looked funnier because the bass's face was just hilarious. But it was just so funny to me, man. I'm like, I gotta chill on these hook sets.
This time of year for muskie fishing, are you casting or are you trolling? Because I know trolling is a big method for them too, right?
You see, trolling is a good way to cover water, but it's not fun in terms of actually getting to feel that strike because feeling the hit is everything. It's everything. It's so beautiful. It's so satisfying. It's just a vicious thump. You know what I'm saying? And when you're trolling, you're just sitting there and the boat's doing all the work, but you cover a lot of water. So if I'm fishing a new lake that I know nothing about, you know what I'm going to do? Sure enough, I'm going to put a bunch of baits out the side of the boat and we're going to troll because I'm not casting all day in waters I don't know anything about. But if I had the choice, I want to cast. Casting is preferred over trolling 9 out of 10. The only time I'll troll is, like I said, is I'm fishing a new water or the bite is very slow, it's tough, and we gotta start covering some water.
The other interesting thing about muskie to me is they've got this, I don't know if it's like 100% true all the time, but they've got this reputation for trailing baits and following them right up to the boat. And then you see these guys doing these crazy figure eight patterns and then getting the strike right on the boat.
That's huge in muskie fishing. They're a fish that's very optimistic before it strikes. It'll follow your bait for so long, for longer than you think. It'll follow a bait for almost a kilometer. I've seen this because my buddy put a camera on the back of his trolling lure, like just before it, so he could see. Like I don't know if you ever seen those YouTube videos, the trolling videos.
Yep.
They put a camera so it's on the line, and you could see these fish come behind the lure, and they'll just stalk it like nose on the bait, like nose to bait, and just stalking it for a kilometer straight, and just I don't know what goes on through their heads. They're just so curious, but yeah, they definitely wait before they decide to strike. And sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's so odd for a fish like that because it seems like it's such a waste of energy. They're so big, and to propel themselves through the water for that long and not eat something just seems so counterintuitive.
Here's the thing. These fish have been around for a long time. They're seeing these baits every year. Every year they're seeing these baits, and every year they're getting smarter and smarter. And it's the reason to why they'll follow it for so long. Yeah, it seems like a waste of time, but you gotta think if you've been caught before by this bait, and then you
Uh-huh.
see it the next year, and then you get a little deja vu in your head. You're like, I've seen this thing before, and this is them following. That probably answers my question. What's going on through their heads? They seen this bait before. They seen it last year, and they got caught by it.
Yeah.
So now they're a little more picky. So it's a reason why so many guys are coming up with all these ideas, because every year somebody comes up with a new bait, and it's something the muskies haven't seen, and that's huge in the muskie world.
Hmm.
Making a bait that these fish have not seen. We've made almost every bait possible, and someone still seems to come up with something new, and it's awesome. It's catching us more fish, because once this fish sees this bait it's never seen before, it's more likely to hit it compared to the same bait they've been seeing for years that these guys have been using.
Yeah.
And were you going to say something?
I'm going to talk about like the same kind of feeling I have here, but go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah,
Because mine's going to be
the figure eight is such a thrilling moment for us muskie anglers, for any angler that gets the opportunity of following a muskie follow. Um, you don't miss it. I'll tell you that much. You're reeling in your bait, and if you're paying attention, you see this silhouette. It's a brown silhouette, and it's the muskie, and it's your heart drops to your stomach, and like you almost got to check your pants to see if you might have, and then if you're experienced and know how to do the figure eight, this can be a great catch opportunity, because you know, sometimes they hit it as soon as you do. Like the figure eight, it's obviously what? It's an eight, but
hmm.
it's pretty much two C's. And when you do the one C, it's called the hang. We call it the hang. And it's when the fish bite almost every time, because this is when the bait dies and you're doing the eight, the bait kind of stops, and it's called killing the bait. So
Uh-huh.
this is when the muskie realizes this is the best opportunity for me to hit this thing right now, and that's when we get most of our hits. Sometimes you have to do the figure eight almost 10 times, 15 times. You might have a fish chasing the bait for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It's aggravating. It's so frustrating. It's like, are you gonna hit this thing? It's like, are you gonna hit this thing or not? And yeah, sometimes it's the first hang or it's the 20th. It's just, you never know with these fish. Some are fired up, some are not as active. But
So with the whole lure thing you're talking about, fish seeing the same lure every year, uh, I haven't done any of the trout fly fishing while I've been out here yet, just because whenever I drive up and down these rivers, uh, there are these little pockets of water because we don't get a whole lot of rain, so everything's coming off the mountains, and these holes of water, I'm sure that trout have seen 100 of the same fly
yes,
pass through there every
yes,
day.
yes,
And to me, I just don't think it looks that fun because all these guys that are in their Sims waders and they're out there, they're
yep,
hardcore. They're catching
yep,
and release guys, so they're catching the trout and they're putting it back.
yep,
Um, Same thing with ice fishing. So ice fishing is a touch different. We're catching a lot of stock trout, but back to the anticipation thing. You watch your jig drop down the flasher, and you see this red line come up. You're like, "Oh baby, it's a fish. He's going to
yep,
hammer it." And
yep,
you're watching that flash. You're like, "Come on, just eat it." And then the red dot's
yes,
gone, and you
and
just
it's
sit there and go,
gone.
you just go,
Yes.
"Shit!" Back to the next one. So I can sympathize a little, just not to the extent of catching those monster fish that you are.
But it's the same idea, man. Isn't it frustrating? Isn't it
Oh,
like, especially after like the fifth one, the sixth one that does that? It's like, what is going on? And you've thrown everything but the kitchen sink, and they're still not biting. It's
it can be super frustrating. It's the same deal with hunting. You can do everything right, and then the deer decides to take a different path, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do.
No. No,
And
there's not.
and maybe not so much with fishing, but hunting, I feel like there's as much luck involved as skill.
Fishing too.
You
Fishing
think
too.
so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fishing too. Yeah.
I've never thought about fishing as needing luck for some reason. Maybe it's just because I've been able to catch fish whenever I go out. But I always think if you can dial up the right lure and make the right cast, we'll take because I've been fishing mostly for bass and panfish my whole life. They're not as finicky of a fish, so I've always been pretty successful. But maybe that's just because I've never tried muskie.
That's exactly why. Muskies aren't. They are finicky. They are the definition of finicky. You you have to have the right lure. You have to have everything perfect, and even then, you might not catch one.
I don't know if
You got to
muskie's
be
for
lucky.
me.
It really tests your sanity. It really tests you. It pushes you mentally to your limit. It's like I have actually fished like a full 14-hour period without even seeing a muskie. Take that in.
No,
Take that.
thank you.
Imagine throwing a big heavy old bait for 14 hours. Obviously, I'm taking little breaks. I'm sitting down. I'll get something to eat. But 14 hours, bona fide fishing hours, chucking big lures, 9-ounce lures.
At the end of a day like that, you have to be physically exhausted.
I eat cows at the end. So hungry, starved at the end of that, and I'm bringing food to the trip, like tons of food. Still, at the end of the day, man, you're right. You're absolutely pooched.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about the type of things that you do, the type of things that I do. It's not as easy as just throwing a lure out there, reel it in, and catching a fish.
Not at all.
There's so much work involved.
Yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely. Especially if you're a content creator and you have to film this, it just adds more obstacles. It's like you made something hard even harder.
Yeah, and the more I do it, the more I don't know if it's really even worth it to do that. There's so many people out there that are doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there is so many. So many.
and,
Everybody and their grandmas are opening fishing channels.
yeah, and that's all well and good, the American dream to be sponsored and all that good stuff. But I think the reality is it happens to so few of us that
Even if you do get sponsored, it's not even all that.
yeah, well, because you're sponsored, right? You've got a
Yeah.
tactical fishing gear?
Tactical fishing gear, yeah. They're awesome, but like when you talk sponsorships, like I've talked to a lot of pro bass fishermen that fish like those Bassmaster Classics, and they're sponsored by big names, big fishing companies, but they tell me like it's not worth it. It's not even worth it. They tell me they hate it. Isn't that messed up? To think like you're living the dream, you're fishing for a living, you got these sponsors paying you. No, you have to show up to seminars, you have to show up to meetings, you have to actually. It takes a lot of time out of your day, and you have no choice. You have to go do this, and these seminars sometimes take 4 or 5 hours, maybe half the day, and then you're all tired. Now you got to go to a meeting. And now you're in another 2-hour meeting, and it's not what it seems. It's really not.
No, and honestly, that's that's really the downer about social media, because it takes this thing that's supposed to be fun and pure and relaxing, and you're stressing so much about making sure you get good content, making sure
Yep.
you catch a fish. It completely just it ruins the whole experience.
It does. It does ruin it. Yeah, and it's sad to say too.
It is. That's something that, those old timers that taught you to fish and taught me how to fish, they weren't worried about blasting it on social media because they knew they could tell a big fish story and it was way better.
Yes, yes, it was way more simpler back then, man. Way more simpler. The way you had to find a fishing spot is you had to talk to somebody else. You couldn't just go on Facebook and see like they pretty much give you all the information right there. But back then you actually had to, go out and put in some work yourself. You got to put in some legwork. You got to walk around and, pull out the Google Maps.
In my time, it was Zip or MapQuest. We had to go online and print our maps. We couldn't even pull it up on our phones.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
So what's the future hold for you? You got your YouTube channel, Win City Outdoors.
Yep. Win City Outdoors. Win like win or lose. A lot of people think it's like win, like windy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Win City Outdoors. Yeah.
And I assume you're going to keep making videos, right?
I'm sorry.
I assume you're going to keep on making videos for the foreseeable
till the day
future.
I'm looking up at dirt, brother. That's it. Oh, yeah.
What are you hoping to get out of it? Are you doing this just so you can share information, or what's kind of your goal with your YouTube channel?
I'm in it for the long haul, brother. I'm trying to find a way to make this passion a career.
That's fantastic. I mean, every single person that's big on YouTube has started that way. Yep. Do you watch Extreme Philly Fishing?
Absolutely. I love him.
He was on the podcast and he started the same way. Like, he actually dropped out of his PhD program to make YouTube videos.
Yeah. And he's actually really smart. He's super smart.
One of the nicest people I've ever talked to. He is such a cool guy.
Yeah, he's extremely nice. Yep.
So there you go. Hey, look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put this podcast out and you're just going to automatically just hit the moon, right?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, don't hang your hat on that. Trust me. Is there anything else you want to plug before we wrap it up? My kids are being quiet, so I assume they're either dead or they're asleep.
There could be some trouble. No, just check out my YouTube, Win City Outdoors, WINCITY Outdoors. Just want to thank you for having me on here. It was a good time. I always love talking fishing, so anytime, brother. I do appreciate that though. And I also want to thank Tactical Fishing Gear. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everybody who's been supporting my channel. And also check me out on Instagram, Win City Outdoors, same thing as my YouTube. And yeah.
Fantastic. Aiham, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I always like talking about stuff I know nothing about because it's really enlightening. And Muskie's just it's this foreign creature to me that hopefully one day I'll actually be able to catch one.
Hey man, come along. Me and you will fish together.
If I ever make it up to southern Canada, you better bet your bottom dollar I'll be there.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be incredible.
Don't hang your hat on that either. We'll see.
Usually the beginners they get beginners luck and they always catch the monsters. Every year I see it. Guys just get into it and they end up catching a 50 their first fish.
Don't play with my emotions, Smokey.
It's nice I can see what your name was. I never knew what your name. I only knew you by 12 hike. Now that I know your name's Zach, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to put my big ugly mug out there too much. People don't want to see this face. All right, man. Hey, it's been a pleasure. And you've got an open invitation to come back anytime you want to talk about stuff.
I would love to, brother. I would love to.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take care. Cheers.